if you ask a question like, can somebody do, right? Well, you can do anything you want. The first 2 years where we didn't know much about how the hell we do things, and we're competing with people who have lots of money. We have no idea how the hell we do marketing. We have no idea about website. By the way, I never trained in my life before that. I never knew I can train. Whatever was our strength is becoming our disadvantage unless we're willing to acknowledge that and fix it. There are big companies who have loads of money, right? Data shows most startups don't even survive the first year. ऐसे होता है. Failing is not an option. Even if you fail, it's not end of the world, man. If you fail, it's all right. It's not end of the world. But if you succeed, it's going to help us to go to the next level.
So let's go on to a different set of questions, more like a KT, knowledge transfer.
Sure.
So we'll ask a little technical questions in your perspective. If there is, suppose, a teen or someone who's just stepping out of college, he's not new, he or she is not new to this, he's new to this corporate world. So there are a lot of terminologies that come up, right? Like Scrum, product owner, Scrum Master, a sprint, and things like that. So I'll ask a few questions so that you can like spoon feed, right, to the viewers who are watching. So if you had to define what is Scrum and like a few misconceptions about Scrum.
Yeah, before answering that, you got to pay me 20,000 rupees to be able to get this learning. Okay, just kidding. Okay, people probably do that much, and to learn that in 2 days. But just kidding. So, what is Scrum? So maybe in a layman language, it's a way of working, right? I mean, I don't want to. It's a framework, blah blah blah, all that we can speak. But it's a way of working. It's a way of organizing people in a better way to get the work done, right? And it helps you to be able to learn how things are going, get faster feedback on things, and adapt based on that. It's like, see, you said teen, right? I think, see, we need not complicate things, right? I mean, agile can be as simple as, say, you need to go to college every day, right? Let's say you're going on your bike. You know what? You are being agile, by the way, every single day. So you might have a particular route that you take every day to reach your college. But as you're going towards your college, you are continuously inspecting how. Let's say, and being from Bangalore, I can talk about traffic. A lot of traffic on a particular road, right? You might have a plan to go on a particular road, but it doesn't mean that you have to stick to that plan. The goal is to reach college, right? Not the road. So you might realize we have an easier option to go. You're going to take a detour. So as you are going towards your goal of reaching college, you are continuously inspecting how things are going. Are you really doing okay to reach your goal? If not, you learn along the way and make adjustments as you go. Well, if you ask me what happens in a Scrum project, I would say something like this in a layman language to a teen without complicating using a lot of jargon.
Right? So agile is basically being swift and conscious about your decisions and being flexible.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's the meaning of agile English word also. Yeah, exactly. Being flexible and adapt as you learn rather than expecting people to get everything right, when they are starting a project.
And also, like, it is important to know the methods that we were following before. Like, just like we learn history, there's people do question, why do we learn history about computers when we are working on different technology right now? Why are we learning
my
about...
My son asked me that question, by the way. Okay. Tell me, why should I read this? Okay.
So similarly, it's always important to know what you've done in the past and how new technology has improved that. Along similar lines, like, could you explain a bit about Waterfall? Because we have transferred from Waterfall to Agile. Like, most of the companies have transferred from Waterfall to Agile.
Yep.
Can you just shed some light on Waterfall as well?
Yeah. So again, I don't want to get too technical using the. So the way, in nutshell, we used to do projects. I've done. In fact, I started my journey in Waterfall projects. When I was hired, my first company, obviously in 2001, the only most commonly used method was Waterfall. So in a nutshell, it's about you go to a customer, talk for a couple of weeks, couple of months about what's the requirement that you want us to accomplish. You try to finalize all the requirements, and then you come to the drawing board, figure out what kind of designs we should be doing to be able to get this requirement scattered to. Then you start the development of, okay, now that you kind of agreed on, okay, these are the 10 things we should do, these are the kind of design approach you're going to take. They start building all the 10 things, and then you're going to go for some testing. So it was more sequential, right? That is what it's called as waterfall. Imagine the water flowing down. It is going step by step, right? I think that's why it's called as waterfall. So that's how most of the projects are done, at least IT. I can talk about IT because that's where I worked always. Until, maybe in 95, 2000 is when people start talking about Agile. Agile Manifesto was created in 2001, by the way. So multiple companies start adapting it, right? So the fundamental, I won't use the word flaw, right? The fundamental challenge in traditional approaches, you expect people to kind of get everything right when they're starting. Let me ask you a question, right? For example, let's take the same example. You're going to a college. I'm going to ask you, tell me the exact time you need to reach college, and you tell me the complete route starting from your house to the college right now before you even start. And you should not, and we expect you to be able to meet this. Forget about the project, right? Will you be able to say that?
No.
For example, I'm going to say, let me ask you a question. How much time you need to go to your college from your house on your bike? How much time it takes?
Depends on the traffic. It depends on many parameters.
Considering all the parameters that you know on a Monday morning, working day, in your bike, how much time it takes?
30 minutes, half an hour.
Okay. You said 30 minutes, right? If I'm going to say, look, you must guarantee that you're going to reach exactly in 30. You cannot say given 5 minutes more, 2 minutes less. If you do that, I'm going to debar you from your college. Will you be okay?
Definitely not.
Yeah, right. Because see, you're like, man, a lot of things not in my control, right? What the hell? How do I know what happens on the road, right? When I do, in general, it takes 30 minutes. But if you say, look, you got to guarantee me that you're going to reach there, it becomes very difficult, right? So forget about the project. If somebody as simple as traveling from point A to B expects you to kind of know everything that could possibly go wrong, consider all that, and then give the timelines and money to complete that, it is next to impossible. That was the approach, right? If not exactly, but that was the expectation in traditional way of working, right? And Agile kind of challenged that assumption that how can you really expect people to know everything and tell you the exact time and money it is required to complete something? Because the nature of the work we're dealing with is so ambiguous. Nobody know what the hell we're supposed to do. Forget the biggest problem in many projects is customer don't know what they want, right? It's very easy to go and say, tell me the requirement. Well, because see, let's say you're building something new, Nishant, right? You're not really sure what sells, what doesn't sell, what customer wants, what he don't want. You might have some assumptions about this could sell, this no, this is the problem you have to solve. But what is the guarantee that you got it right? So the biggest challenge is you expect customer to tell you exactly what they want when they don't know what they want. So I think Agile probably challenged that fundamental, challenge in traditional way of working where you expect people to tell you exactly what they want. To now Agile is moving towards, what? Nishan knows he has to go to college and he has some high level idea on which particular direction you're going to take. You're going to start from there, and every 5 minutes as he's driving, you're going to take a stock of how is he doing, is he going in the right direction or not, is this road really good enough or not, and be open to make adjustments along the way to reach the college. So rather than saying Nishant must tell the entire route and the time you're going to take to reach college, which is more traditional, I would say. Two, we're saying, hey, Nishant knows the goal of reaching the college and he kind of has an idea on which direction he has to go. He'll start with that information and along the way, he'll figure out things and adapt. Is the fundamental change you are bringing in Agile way of working. And that's how I can put in a basic way without getting too technical about it.
That was very basic. I think everybody will understand that.
Yeah.
One more thing is like whenever there's change, always with change, right? Like if you want to change anything, any traditional way of changing it has to have some benefits. You obviously mentioned a lot of benefits, but a primary factor in any change is the money aspect.
Yep.
How does Scrum benefit monetary wise?
Monetary wise in terms of costs in the project.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it again helps you to get early indicators on how are you managing your costs, right? To be able to manage it. So one thing I'm going to say is, look, a lot of times we talked about misconceptions just now. One of the misconceptions is people sometimes claim if you do a project in agile way, let's say using Scrum framework, it's going to help you to reduce the total cost. I can prove by data that is something that somebody cannot guarantee, right? It depends upon a lot of factors in that particular project. But let's say I'm going to a client and he's saying, look, I want to do things in a Scrum way and that is going to help me save my money. I'm going to say, look, first thing, nobody can guarantee you that. But what I can guarantee you is if you use an agile way of working, for the money you are spending, you're going to get the value early, one. So now if getting that value early is going to be beneficial for your organization in terms of you go to the market early, you get feedback from your customers or that way, or get some traction going in the market, yeah, sure, you can definitely expect the benefit to come in. And rather than saying it will help you to save costs, I will say it help you to realize early, whatever money you are spending, is it really giving you the returns or not? And that way, take a call on shall we continue spending in the same way or not? And that way, you can manage your costs better. So, nutshell, it won't guarantee you that it will reduce the total cost you're going to spend, but help you to manage your costs better. That way, hopefully, you'll get better buck for your investments.
So we've spoken a lot about Scrum, we've spoken about Agile, Waterfall, sorry, right? So Scrum, if I have to put an overview, what I know, you have a team of developers. There is a Scrum Master, there's a product owner, right?
You can teach. Okay. Yeah.
This is my knowledge that I
Yeah,
know.
no, you're right,
I've
yeah.
also worked in corporate for
You
a
are
bit.
right.
So
Yeah.
this is the structure, right? So if you had to explain again to a layman, a team of developers, I'm pretty sure people will understand the developers. What is the role of a Scrum Master and what is the role of a product owner? And what is the difference between the two? Because there's a lot of misconception
Yep.
about Scrum Master, product owner, what is the hierarchy?
Yeah.
Who do I report to?
And I make a living on clearing that misconception. Okay. Yeah, I can agree with you that there's a lot of misconceptions. So I'll just again, let's not use jargon, right? I want to take an example that maybe most of us can relate to. If we take an IPL team, KKR. You know who owns KKR, right?
Yeah, Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan. So Shah Rukh Khan is like the product owner.
Hmm.
And what is, I mean, if not Shah Rukh Khan, anybody who owns that team, right? See, as a team owner, their focus is going to be more on how can we get more brand endorsements, that we get more money, we increase the brand value of the team so that we'll be able to run this in a profitable manner. That should be the focus of any team owner, right? Obviously, right? I mean, otherwise, why would they invest money on it on a team? So to me, a team owner in IPL is like a product owner who is looking at the product and see, I mean, what is it that we can do with this to be able to maximize the value out of it for your organization or for your investors. So now Scrum Master, building on the same analogy, is going to be like the coach of the team, right? So coach doesn't really come and play the game, right? So coach is outside the field, but coach is someone who is there making sure players are getting what they need, they're able to focus on their game. If there is some individual struggling, making sure you address their concerns, make sure they're bonding as a team, they're getting what they want to be able to do what they're supposed to be doing. So I would say in the same analogy, coach of the team is like Scrum Master, players are the developers.
So yeah, I really like this analogy. So let's stick to this, right? So Scrum Master is a coach, say, and the players are the developers. So there's also a question where does the Scrum Master need technical knowledge?
Yeah.
Should the coach be able to play as well?
Good question. Yeah, I've noticed, Nishant, somebody who is a great player need not be a great coach, or vice versa. So I know sports teams traditionally pick up somebody who played the same game, but I believe a coach is not going to be successful because of his technical skills, so to speak, or the sports skills. And that's why look at the data, right? There are people who probably were not so successful, as a player, but they end up becoming great coaches. Because see, as a coach, what you bring into the table is ability to be able to get people work together, right? So your people skills, in my opinion, is more important than your technical skills, right? In fact, if I'm hiring someone for Scrum Master role, I wouldn't hire somebody because he's good in Java. I'll hire him because he understands first the framework of Scrum, have the required experience, and he or she can go have the ability to be able to help people understand it, implement it, and more importantly, they understand people and they'll be able to relate to people and help them work with people in a better way. This is what I look for. So I would say Scrum Master need not have any technical skills to play that role. For the same reason why successful coaches were not successful players, right?
Reasonable, makes sense.
Yeah.
So another thing is in Scrum teams, right? There is a daily Scrum or a team meeting where the tasks and everything for that sprint, we'll come to sprint as well later on. It's been discussed. So as you said, a coach or a Scrum Master is required to discuss with the team. Do you think a product owner is also required in these meetings, in the daily Scrum?
Daily Scrum? No. Quick answer. Neither Scrum product owner, I would say, nor Scrum Master is required for daily Scrum, right? It's more the team hurt. It's like, see, the game is on. Again, taking the same comparison, right? You might have seen, if you follow cricket, sometimes the team gets together into a huddle. You see, Shah Rukh Khan or the coach coming to that huddle on the ground? No, right? See, they are in the middle of the game and they're looking at what is it that they can do next, right? So quick answer, in daily scrum, neither product owner is required nor scrum master.
Along the
It's the
same,
developers.
along the same analogy, the coach does during the game. The coach does give suggestions, right? So maybe the scrum master is giving suggestions during the sprint
Yeah,
while
so
the game is
see,
on.
yeah, there are suggestions. See, scrum master is an enabler, and if there is some bottlenecks, you see the team is not able to really, resolve on their own. Yeah, then they can reach out to scrum master to be able to get some help, get the required experts. But that doesn't mean that he or she should be in every meeting to just because there could be a possible problem that the team need help on, right? Instead, I would turn that around and say, you know what, developers own their work and you are taking care of the work, and if you need any help to be able to make progress, go reach out to scrum master. Then putting the onus on scrum master to be in every meeting just in case there is a problem that developers might need help on. Yeah, so they're not required for daily scrum. I mean, both product owner and scrum master, I would say. Yeah.
Another question on the little controversial side, right? You have a scrum master, product owner, and the team. If a project is successful,
Yeah.
right, who do you give the success to?
See, again, I mean, I know we talked about sports again. See, if a team wins, whom do you give success to?
The players, the coach. You don't give it to the owner, so do you give it to the product owner as well?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, imagine product owner, I mean, a team owner is not taking care of giving the basic infrastructure to people and making sure whatever fee they are supposed to receive is being received. Well, do you think players will be okay to be able to continue playing? What I'm trying to hint at is, Nishan, the whole team is gonna be owning the success, right? I mean, in terms of they're all contributing to the success, right? If you take any one of them out of the team, I don't think they'll be able to. They'll really be successful, right? You might be just seeing the game being played, but for it to happen, for people to focus on it, there are people behind the scenes supporting them. So I'm gonna give the credit to the entire Scrum team, not one person. And just one comment on that, Nishant. I think that's the big factor to make sure you change the way people work, right? So a lot of them, unfortunately, you measure people individually. Okay, if you work, incorporates, the famous bell curve where you try to force fit somebody as above expectations, somebody below expectations. So where you are measuring people individually and you are in a way making them compete with each other. And when you measure somebody like that, expecting them to work like a team becomes a joke. Why would they work as a team when you know that you have to look better than Narasimha to get better hike, right? So I think for organizations, if they want Scrum teams to be successful, they got to start measuring the team output. So that will give incentives for everyone to think about, how can I contribute as a team to get better? Because I know if the team succeeds, it will going to help me personally as well. Because I am rated on how the team performs, right? So I think it's very important to bring in the team measurements for people to be motivated to work as a team.
Another one along the same lines. Can a single person be both the scrum master and the product owner?
Again, question is can, right? Of course you can, but is that effective? No. I mean, there is no rule. Again, if you go by Scrum guide, right, which is defining Scrum framework, there's no such rule that one guy can't be both product owner and Scrum master. But is that effective if you do that? My experience in projects, definitely not effective. And by the way, for the same reason, you don't see such things happening in the real world. Imagine Shah Rukh Khan becoming the coach of the team. You can, right? I mean, he can say, man, I'm gonna save some money, and I'm also gonna become the coach. Anyway, these guys already know how to play. Will that be effective? Probably not. But definitely not.
Also, if there is a budget situation, I don't have budget to have both a scrum master and a product owner, what would be your call
You don't have budget to have both. Okay.
to have both? So should I prefer a scrum
So in
master?
that case, as I said, there is no rule in Scrum that one guy cannot wear both hats, right? But is that effective? My answer is no. But if you say situation is, look, you know what, Narsima, we don't have money to. We are a startup. Okay, we have a bunch of 5 people. Man, I don't have separate people to wear these hats. I mean, yeah, then in that case, one person probably will have to don both the hats. But I mean, keep in mind that may not be the best way of working. But you start with what you have got, right? I mean, yeah, you can't sit back and say, look, I want to have the best possible things to be able to move forward. Right? You start with where you are, with what you can. So situation is like, I cannot afford doing this, and start with what you have got. So in that case, one person probably will wear both hats and go from there. But keep in mind, that is the most not the best way of doing things.
Another question comes to mind. Like I've wondered if something goes wrong in a project, right? Obviously, the person representing the team is to take the blame, or is going to be in the forefront, right? Who do you think that is if a project goes wrong? Is it the product owner or a scrum
So
master?
I'm going to connect that to the previous question we talked about, right? So we said it's important to measure team, not individual. Take the same. Imagine you know that if something goes wrong, you are the person who will get reprimanded for that. You are the only person going to. Obviously, you're going to behave differently, right? So either it is success or failure. You should make the team accountable. So I think if I'm a coach, what I would do is to make sure that people don't single out one person and say, here is the reason, that's why you screwed up. Well, there could be performance issues with individuals that you can, take separately and get them trained or replace them, but you should give credit to the whole team, or you should make sure the whole team takes the blame as well, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That
So I
makes sense.
wouldn't definitely say, oh, go to Scrum Master product owner, right? But if the product doesn't sell, for example, no, let me put it that way, right? Say the team builds something, right? So obviously the developers and the Scrum Master not expect to have the business knowledge, right? They're gonna build whatever business is asking for, PO is asking for. But let's say it is not gonna sell in the market, right? You're not able to make the money. Product is okay, but it's just not able to make money out of it, or not getting the required downloads, required, we don't people don't spend enough time on that, right? There are no downloads at all. Well, then I'm gonna make product owner accountable for that, because as a business guy, you are supposed to be understanding the market opportunities and make decisions. So if you're not able to deliver that in terms of revenue, in terms of business goals, I'm gonna make product owner accountable for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's based on the situation.
See, project results, building the product, whole team. Okay. But if let's say whatever you build is not doing well in the market as expected, I'm gonna make PO accountable for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, for viewers who do, just to give an overview for viewers, when there's a task given in a sprint, so you have general stuff is assigned, new assigned, in review, and then done. Like to give a basic
Sure.
flow, right? So, is generally when a task is in review, it's going to be reviewed by the product owner or scrum master.
Definitely not Scrum Master. See, Scrum Master is not expected to be someone technical or someone who is gonna go and take care of developers' responsibilities. See, whatever status you're talking about can vary from tools to tools, right? That could mean multiple things in a project. But review can be done by the fellow developers. Let's say I've done some work, okay? You can review my work more technically. Is my code is really done properly, optimally? Did I follow the coding standards? Have I added proper code comments for someone to be able to maintain this later on? That review can be done by you, another fellow developer, right? Product owner is not going to review the task, but product owner can review the business functionality. As in, he can verify that functionality and say this is working fine, or no, this is a problem. And in this particular scenario, this should have worked differently. So that could be done by product owner as well. That depends upon what are we reviewing. Both can happen.
So, like a particular task has been assigned, it's been reviewed by the fellow developers as well. Now it is to be moved to done. Like this task is complete. So that is done after suppose a developer gives a demo to a product owner or to the fellow teammates. So who is the one who takes the decision that okay, this job is done. It's met the expectation. So we can move on to the next task. So is it the product owner?
So, okay, I won't use the word task. Okay, I know you said task. I think you meant a functionality or a feature. So, I would say it is developers, because there is something called as definition of done. Again, getting into the Scrum framework jargon. So, when you meet the definition of done, you are basically making sure the functionality is built the right way and the right thing is built. So Proctor is going to give his view on the functionality, whether it is really worked fine or not. But developers have to do a lot of other things to be able to make sure it is being built with the required quality. So the onus of making sure we built a done increment or feature is with developers. And in the process, they'll get the feedback from the product owner on the functionality part of it.
Okay, got it. And so we mentioned a lot about sprint in between. We never touched upon that. So let's revert back and let's go back to what is a sprint? And a follow up question is how long should an ideal sprint be?
Yeah, so sprint is a duration of time. I think in a way your second question answered the first question. So you talked about duration, right? So sprint is simply duration of time, right? Let's say you decided to go with the 10-day sprint, right? So January 1 to January 10 is your sprint 1. So it's simply duration of time. And Scrum Guide suggests that the sprint duration is suggested to be not longer than one calendar month. And there's no ideal sprint duration, right? I mean, I wouldn't say, this duration is ideal. It depends upon the project. So typically, the guideline is can't be more than 1 month. And within that 1 month, what is the ideal duration for that particular project is something the developers and PO are going to decide based on that project context, right? I mean, see, PO brings in the business side of things, right? How long we can wait without getting the feedback, without changing the priorities. Developers bring in their understanding of how long it is going to take for them to build something meaningful, something valuable that they can use to get the feedback. So, considering this business and the delivery aspects, developers and PO are gonna agree on a sprint duration that is ideal for that project. So, I would say there is no such ideal sprint duration for any project. For a particular project, the sprint duration that is ideal for that project should be decided by the developers and product owner for that project.
You mentioned sprint duration for a project, right? I have a follow up question on that. So, say I have a project, say it's going to take like 4 months to make that project successful or to complete the project. Now there'll be different stages of the project. There'll be like planning, development, and then maybe like finishing it off. Maybe there's a bit of documentation. So these tasks are different in their aspects, right? So can we have sprints of different duration in the same project?
Yeah, first thing, Nishan, that's not how you work in Scrum. And I know, you seem to be thinking that we complete the entire planning and then we do entire development, then we do something. In fact, that's how we worked in Waterfall. So we are moving away from that in Scrum. Instead, in Scrum, the team is expected to do a bit of everything to deliver something valuable to the business. We don't go by, okay, we do development and then do testing. Instead, we say, okay, there are 10 features business wants. Let's pick one that we believe we can complete in whatever duration we have got, let's say 2 weeks. So now in that 2 weeks, they're going to be doing everything required, right? In building on what you said, development, testing, design, whatever is required to be able to show something that is working, one feature, and show to the business and get the value. So we don't work like one after the other. Instead, in Scrum, the team is doing a bit of everything simultaneously. And can sprint duration change? Quick answer is no. And again, why? Because see, it's like saying, hey, can you walk with different step lengths? I use this in my classes, so I'm just repeating that. Yeah, you can. Nobody's going to stop you. But will that be convenient? If you walk with different step lengths, will that be convenient?
No.
Yeah. So for the same reason, the sprint durations has to be same, and for every sprint in that particular project. So I would say it is ideal not to change the sprint duration. You should keep the same duration for every sprint in that project.
And also, before a sprint starts or once like the initial first day of the sprint, we set sprint goals, right? Like just before the sprint starts or on the first day of the sprint. So who takes over, like how many story points or how many sprint goals do we set for this sprint? Who's the one who's taking over that?
Yeah, so first thing, what is a goal, right? Goal is I would say a business outcome, right? I mean, let's say that's where you expect the PO to propose what kind of outcomes he's looking for. And who do you think should be deciding that? What do you think? Let's say, I'll put that question back to you, right? There are developers, product owners, Scrum Master. So who do you think should be deciding how much work we should take up?
I think there should be a discussion with the developers as well because they will know how much bandwidth they have.
Exactly, right? That's why developers should be deciding. See, by the way, if you let business guy decide how much work, they're going to tell you complete everything by yesterday, right? I mean, because first one, you don't know the effort involved, work required, and you probably looking at things from the business point of view and trying to convey the timelines. So the developer should be deciding how much work they can take up. And whether you mentioned story points is just an estimation unit, and that's not part of Scrum. Just to be sure, what estimation unit you use in your projects is up to you. Story point is just a unit of estimation, and Scrum is not prescribing that.
Yeah, so we're talking about sprint goals, right? For a sprint. So once the sprint goals have been decided, is there a need for a daily Scrum?
Yeah, answer is yes. And again, connecting back to some of the examples we're talking about, right? I mean, let's say you started with the goal of reaching college. Do you think it makes sense for you to kind of check every 5 minutes, am I really going in the right direction or not? Or you think you don't have to do any checks in between? I think it makes sense for you to check in between on how things are going.
Yes.
I think that's the purpose of daily Scrum too, right? I think I won't. It's a need. I mean, it's a must, right? I mean, I won't say need. It's a must, though, so that it helps the team. I mean, developers to get together every day to check out how are we doing to reach our end goal, and helps them to adapt if necessary to be able to eventually reach the sprint goal.
Follow up on that. I mentioned daily Scrum. Like we could have a bi-weekly meeting. Is there like a stipulation that it has to be daily Scrum?
Yep. I mean, so As per the Scrum guide, Scrum framework, yes, it's a rule that is why it's called as daily Scrum. You got to have it every day, rather than just taking it as a rule, right, Nishant? I think it makes sense, right? I think for you to be able to, it's like saying, why do you brush every day? You can brush once in 2 weeks. Yeah, you can, but I think doing it every day is going to help you better, right? Same logic. So I think that's the reason why it's a rule in Scrum that you should do it every day. But longer you wait, the possibility of you going wrong and realizing it after 2 weeks is going to be more, right? Why would you want to wait for 2 weeks and then realize, oops, we are not in the right direction? It's better for you to do that every day so that you course correct if there's an opportunity, right? So that's why it's mandatory in Scrum and supposed to be done every day. That is why it is called as daily Scrum.
This question might sound a little ridiculous to you, but please bear with me.
No,
In your experience, is there like any time when there was a need to pause or cancel the scrum, cancel the sprint or like restructure everything?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, there is an option called sprint cancellation available in Scrum, and which is what product owner can do. For example, let's say you started working on some goal, right? Building on what you said, sprint goal. But for whatever reason, in the middle of the sprint, the goal is not going to make sense for the business anymore. Things have changed in the market, new regulation has come in, or something has happened. Due to that, the current goal doesn't even make sense if you achieve it. So what is the point of continuing because you started on a sprint, right? So then there's an option called sprint cancellation available for product owner, so that you at least stop wasting further effort on that particular goal. You're going to cancel and start the next sprint where you do planning again, blah blah blah.
How?
And in my experience, I won't say the sprint got cancelled. Sorry to interrupt. So the whole project got cancelled. So I was in UK for a project where we were supposed to implement something on MiFID regulations. I don't remember correctly. So and some new regulation has come in, and the client realized for us to be in line with that regulation and go live by whatever date we're looking at, it is next to impossible. So they decided to stop the whole project when we were in the middle of a sprint. So there was not only cancelling the sprint, it was the whole project. Otherwise, you don't expect cancellation to happen too often, but there is an option for the PO to call it, to do it if it makes sense to stop working towards the same goal.
Like, I'm sure you've answered the next question that I'm about to ask with this full interview or podcast. But do you think Scrum Master training is required? Can't we just watch online sessions? You've already made it pretty clear why it's required, the way you've answered.
I think Nishant, people can learn, right? I mean, one good thing about today, right? Nowadays, if you want to learn, there are hundreds of resources available to learn. Especially things like Scrum, right? I believe, yeah, you can learn theoretically, right, by looking at online videos. But can you really learn to a level that you can go back and practice it? Well, if there are opportunities like that, great. But I think when you spend 2 days with practitioners who have done this before, and you learn how you go back and implement this in your projects. My experience when people are doing these trainings, by end of 2 days, they'll be able to say, look, this is how I can implement in my project. I don't think, at least I have not seen online resources where people can do that. But they can learn. Scrum has got product owners, Scrum Master developers. What is sprint, daily Scrum? But watching those videos, can you go back and implement? I doubt. Whereas attending these trainings will really give you enough knowledge, enough tools for you to be able to say, okay, here are the 10 things I should do starting tomorrow in my project to implement Scrum. And that's the reason why I say you should spend those 2 days, which is going to help you to avoid 200 days of problems in your projects.
That's all that I had for you.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing podcast/interview. I mean, you've answered questions in like a very layman, a very viewer-friendly way. I could even it's been a while since I worked in corporate, but I could completely understand and relate to whatever you answered. So it's been a great interview. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nishant. And by the way, it's my first podcast, and you made me feel really comfortable. Thanks for that. And hopefully, we're going to meet again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.